Can you speak English? Can, can you speak with an English accent? Your answer to that question might depend on what your definition of English, since there are so many dialects of the English language. Two of the most common types are American and British English. While they are both technically the same language, there are tons of difference between the two. Today, we're going to take a look at the British accent versus American accent. We'll also discuss some vocabulary, spelling, and grammar that distinguish each of these dialects. There are a lot of factors that make British and American English different. The most obvious, how they pronounce the word and how they spell the words. On the top of pronunciations, American English spelling differs from British English spelling. They don't always use the same words for various items. Finally, certain grammatical structure are different as well. Let's take a look at all this in more detail. We'll discuss the most obvious consonant differences when it comes to American versus English accents. First, let's start with the pronunciations of the word R. When you hear the British person speak and then compare to an American speech, the first thing you'll probably notice is that they treat the R sound very differently. Let's take a look at the example. In the word car, British say car. In the word bear, British say bear. In the word flat, in the word start, British say start. In the word New York, British say New York. And also the T sounds. In American English, something happened to the T sound when it comes after a stressed vowel and before a weak one. It turns into combination of T and a D. On the other hand, in standard British English, that the T in those two words would sound like typical T sound. This does vary depending on the area of England. However, some Brits use a glottal stop, meaning the T isn't really pronounced at all. Let's have a look on the example. In the word butter, the British will say butter. In the word water, British say water. In the word tomato, British say tomato or tomato. Aside from the pronunciation, variation we've gone through, British English and American English have different spelling. For the example, in the word favorite, the Americans spell it Favorite. Meanwhile, in English they say they add U sound, so it becomes Favorite. And also the next, how they pronounce. Another example is how they spell the word organize. In American English, the spelling has become Organeze. Meanwhile, in British, they spell it Organese. Another example, how they spell the word license. In American, the spellings become Leccense. Meanwhile, in British spelling, it becomes Lecence. And then what distinguishes them are the vocabulary. So in British English, they say high street. Meanwhile, in American English, they say main street. In British English, they say car park. Meanwhile, in American English, they say parking lot. In British English, they say flat. Meanwhile, in American English, they say apartment. In British English, they say lift. Meanwhile, in American English, they say elevator. In British English, they say university. Meanwhile, in American English, they say college. And next, the grammar. How American English refer a situation, they use can and should. For example, can I get you something to drink? Should we go to see a movie? Meanwhile, in British English, they use shall. Like, shall I get you something to drink? Shall we go see a movie? The way they express future plans, American English use will. Like, I will be there at 8 o'clock. Meanwhile, in British English, they say shall. I shall be there at 8 o'clock. And the past participle of get are so different. American English say gotten. So the word would be I've gotten sick every Christmas since I was 10. Meanwhile, in British English, it say I've got sick every Christmas since I was 10. The preposition of time, American English say on. I'll see you on the weekend. Meanwhile, in British English, they say I'll see you at the weekend. So that are some explanations why our British English and American English are different. Thank you so much.